And how about you, Richard? I know we spoke to you when the election was called. You thought the Conservatives could still win it. How did you feel when you saw that exit poll? Or did you feel during this campaign that this was not winnable for the Conservatives?
Yeah, I might have been stretching it with you, Emma, at the start of the campaign I mean, it was fairly clear that the public thought, look, you're not united. It doesn't look like you're working in the national interest. And so during the campaign, even when talking about good things that the last Conservative government had done, people had already sort of made their mind up. They weren't good Conservative voters, didn't want to come out and vote this time. Very pleased to hold on to my seat. It was a bit of a shock on the exit poll with North Bedfordshire being seen as going for the Labour Party. But
and was it a poor campaign, would you say?
Well, my observation is local, because I didn't really see much going on in the national campaign. And locally, I think we had a really good campaign. We did an old style. We did town hall meetings, leafleting every village, doing a town hall meeting every night. I think we did 21 town hall meetings during the campaign, just to listen to what people
Was
felt.
it a mistake to call this election for July the 4th?
Well, I don't know. I didn't make that decision. I think the party has to be ready. I think the Labour Party were ready at any time for the election. I think the Conservative Party were ready at any time for the election. But that's one of the things that we'll be looking at as part of the overall review.
Charlotte, Richard, did reform cost you this election, do you think, in any way?
No, I think Nigel's right. You know, if the one side of the political spectrum is divided, split between two parties, it's very hard under this electoral system to win a majority. The consequence of Nigel's short-term rampaging across the country was that most of East Anglia chose a different party than Conservatives this time. And so I think that's a problem for the centre-right to resolve.
And Richard, just on the future of the Conservative Party, what happens next now with the leadership contest, and when would you like to see a new leader in place? Do you want that process to, I mean, as chairman of the party, you'll have some influence over this, presumably. Yeah. Do you want this contest to last until sort of late autumn to get the right person in place?
Well, we'll be resolving that shortly, I think, and it'll be quite clear next time we talk about what that time frame will be. But on this issue, I mean, Nigel's efforts, and I don't blame him for taking up that opportunity, but he owns this Labour government. And I've got a big meeting on Friday with my local council on the Labour policy of putting a tax on education. We have no places in our state schools, in Bedford Borough secondary schools, to take the children who are privately school educated. And the Borough Council is worried about that. We have an issue of housing growth in North Bedfordshire, 3.5 times the national average. The Labour Party want to concrete over North Bedfordshire. I want to make sure that we stop doing that. So we have issues right from the start to deal with.
Back to you, Richard. Have you left a bit of a mess for the Labour Party to now deal with?
Well, I think they'll find how difficult governing is in a complex society with many challenges, both domestic and international. It's interesting to hear that Labour have a fully costed, fully funded plan, so I assume there's absolutely no chance of any surprise tax increases from Rachel Reeves. That's good to hear, because many people think she will raise taxes later this year, apparently not. And of course, with the issue of green policies, you know, there is a balance here. I mean, people support
But was this election essentially lost because people just simply weren't happy with what had been done under the Conservative government?
As I said,
people wanted to vote for someone other than you guys, whether it was any of our other guests.
Look, I think it is. I mean, it's hard to win a fifth term. I think it's almost impossible to win a fifth term. When you add into that the issues of the traumas of COVID and coming out of COVID, the price shocks, etc., and then when the public clearly said, you guys don't look like you're a united force, and we don't think that you're working in the national interest, that's a very big hole to get out of in an election campaign. I like Rishi Sunak. I think he's a decent man, and I'm sorry that many of my colleagues have lost. But the fundamental questions we have to answer is to demonstrate that we are up for the job, and second of all, to demonstrate we're doing it in the national interest.